I was actually going to talk about something else right now, but this is actually, I think, far more important, and you need to understand what's going on, and you need to prepare yourselves for something. I need to talk about postmodern Marxism. Marxism is, in fact, an ideology that is derived from postmodernism. And Marxism views the world in terms of power dynamics. Religions view the world in terms of absolute truths. Those truths vary by religion. Marxism views everything as a power dynamic. It views religion as a structure of power. It views the world as a power dynamic. And one of the beliefs of Marxism is that those who peddle truth claims arrive at moral clarity through their truth claims. And truth claims are designed to advance to a moral clarity, and upon delivering that moral clarity, it gives those truth tellers power. You got to understand this for where we're headed here. This is really important. I tell you something that is true. What Marxists believe I'm trying to do by telling you something that is true is to provide moral clarity around my moral ethics. And assuming you agree with my moral claim and clarity of that claim, it gives me power to dictate the next step. So, for example, the truth claim is Hamas is a terrorist organization that engaged in an unprovoked attack of Israelis that resulted in Holocaust survivors and babies all being shot in the face. Therefore, Israel should be able to respond. That's the moral clarity here, that dead and decapitated babies deserve a violent response to the monsters. So to combat that moral clarity and that truth-telling, here's what postmodern Marxism does, and we're beginning to see that now. Progressives have fully embraced postmodern Marxism, and what do? To negate the moral clarity, they attempt to provide more complexity. So as you add complexity, there is less clarity. And complexity, by making clarity abstract, vague, and obscure, negates your ability to take the next step. So what's happening? Hamas engaged in an unprovoked attack of Israel, killing Israeli citizens, decapitating babies, and shooting Holocaust survivors in the face. So now let's go with the Marxist complexity to get rid of the moral clarity. Well, Israel has been occupying the Gaza Strip, and the people of Gaza, led by Hamas, have turned to violence to free themselves from the occupation. Now, never mind, Israel has not been occupying Gaza. That's what they say. And now the next step. And now Israel controls the water and power of the Gaza Strip and has cut it off to 2 million citizens instead of just targeting Hamas. A little more complexity. So now they pull the twist on you to eradicate the moral clarity. What Hamas did was bad, but what Israel is doing is worse because Hamas may have killed 1,200 Jews, but the Israelis intend to starve and kill 2 million Gazans by depriving them of the basic necessities of life. This is an outrage. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for 72 hours was quiet and is now upset about what Israel is doing in Gaza. However bad Hamas was, this is terrible to do it to 2 million innocent people. All Hamas did was kill 1,200 people. Israel is punishing 2 million people in return, and that's unjust. Rashida Tlaib, the same thing. Democrats globally, the same thing. It is progressive Marxist ideology. You add complexity to erase moral clarity. Black Lives Matters has come out today and said, actually, we wish other little groups would stop calling themselves Black Lives Matter because we disagree with what they did, and we need you to know that while we disagree with Israel, we would never do that. This is a real thing that has happened. The National Black Lives Matters group has now come out and said, we're just so upset that Black Lives Matter Chicago did this. We have nothing to do with them. They have nothing to do with us. Blah, 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 blah. No, you were perfectly fine with Black Lives Matter Chicago. You never tried to stop them until they generated backlash that's hurting your funding from liberal Jews, and now you're upset that Jewish people don't want to give you any money. You've added complexity to eradicate the moral clarity. So let me clarify the situation for you that's happening in Israel. Hamas uses mosques, schools, and hospitals as weapons development labs. Hamas is the elected government of Gaza. The residents of Gaza chose to replace the Palestinian government with Hamas. And then Hamas promptly canceled future elections and now has a dictatorship in Gaza. And the people of Gaza have largely been on Hamas's side. Hamas uses hospitals as their headquarters. Hamas uses mosques as weapons labs. Hamas uses schools as launch facilities for the weapons. The reason Gaza has no water is not because the Israelis stopped the flow. It's because Hamas dug up the water pipes and the sewage pipes to use those pipes for rockets. These cylindrical tubes used to flow water and sewage are instead being used as the bodies of rockets to fire at the Israelis. That's why Gaza doesn't have water. Gaza has one power plant that has now been so exhausted, it's gone out of business over the weekend. It ran out of power, can't produce enough to keep up since the Israelis cut the power. Why does a land of 25 square miles that has 2.1 million people only have one power plant for itself? Because Hamas diverted the resources to build future power plants into weapons production against Israel, and the people of Gaza let them. I'm not making any of this up. So Israel has provided power, and Israel has provided water, and Israel has provided food, and now they've stopped. Why? Because Gaza allowed Hamas to set up shop, to rule the roost, and use its rule to dig up the water pipes to build rockets to launch at Israel. How can Israel respond otherwise when the leaders of the Palestinian territory of Gaza are on record in their charter document calling for the death of all Jews globally and the eradication of Israel? But the Marxists wish you not to know that, because that provides more moral clarity. So they engage in whataboutism. You know how they say that the Palestinians have been occupied for 75 years? What happened 75 years ago? That was the founding of the nation of Israel. So they're really saying they've been occupied for 75 years. What the Marxists try to do is to ignore history and say Israel only has about a 100-year territorial claim to the area. Pay no attention to 3,500 years ago. By the way, do you know what the Palestinians were doing in the late 1940s as the world was coalescing around giving Israel its land back? They were sabotaging and destroying as much archaeological evidence as they could that supported the biblical claim that this land was given by God to the Jews. They wiped out as much as they could, shattering recorded tablets that documented the kings of Israel. All the things the Bible attested to as real archaeologists found, and the Arabs worked very hard to smash as much as it is possible, and yet there was so much of it, they've had a really hard time getting rid of it. What's happening right now and is going to happen over the next week is Israel is going to mount a response to Hamas in Gaza. It is one of the most densely packed areas of land on the planet with 2 million people, and those 2 million people put Hamas in charge. And in that land, Hamas has set up shop. It has put its headquarters in hospitals. It has put its weapons labs in mosques. And it has put its weapons launch facilities in schools so that when Israel responds, it must blow up mosques and it must blow up hospitals and it must blow up schools to ensure that Hamas's weapons of war are destroyed. And in the process, Hamas will make sure there are dead children, dead senior citizens in hospitals, and dead clerics in mosques, and bring the world in for a tour to show them the dead bodies. Meanwhile, they're saying, Israel's not showing us the decapitated babies. Maybe it's not real. Let me say again what I said yesterday. Evil is only abstract to its apologists, who view it as obtuse to avoid having to grapple with it. Hamas is an evil organization, and you should be mindful of those around you and on television and in politics who are trying to morally whatabout the situation in Israel. And that includes people on the right like Vivek Ramaswamy, who has come out on Tucker Carlson and said the only reason you people care about it is because of Jewish money, because of donor dollars. He pointed out the fentanyl crisis. Why aren't people so exercised about the fentanyl crisis? I don't know a person who isn't. And it didn't take money there and it doesn't take money here. If we don't clean up our own side, we have no moral credibility to clean up the other side, but we should be careful and notice who on the left and who on the right are engaging in moral relativism to complicate a very clarifying situation. There are dead babies and dead Holocaust survivors, and Israel didn't ask for it, Israel didn't provoke it, and Israel didn't prompt it, but Hamas decided to do it. Israel gets to respond, and in the fallout, if there are dead and innocent people in Gaza, that's Hamas's fault, not Israel's fault, and don't you dare forget it.